Hello, folks. Okay, third time's a charm. Oh, and there's my cat. He got bored, so he jumped off the back of the sofa there. We're off to a great start. I'm Priya Rao, and I am here with the cast, the writer, director, and the producer of Woodland. I hope you all watched it before joining us for this. I want to say a great thanks to Telefilm Canada, DGC BC, and Creative BC for being supporters of ours and just supporters of Canadian film. Now, let me introduce with a drum roll. Somebody give me a drum roll, please. Fail. Okay. Catherine, welcome. Dale Wolf, welcome. John Silverberg, welcome. Philip Granger, welcome. And our lead actor, Mr. Richard Harmon.
Where is he?
There he is.
Oh.
Come on in. Come on in. Let me pull you closer. Have a seat.
Coming to my kitchen. I'm glad you all showed up.
Oh my God.
Having a whiskey in a cup there?
No, that's an espresso. You can see that for sure.
We did see him even brew it. It was brewed live right here.
Checks out. Even though I could be having whiskey, I'm not even working tomorrow, so I could be, but I'm off drinking for this month just for my own fun.
Oh, for some good detox fun.
How fun is it?
I start up work again soon, and I just wanted, to get rid of the quarantine body. So I was like, let's stop drinking.
Yeah. You got that COVID-19. I see it on your belly, that big gut that you built.
A couple beers, yeah.
Yeah. I want to say to anybody who's on Facebook, if you have questions, please just pop them into Facebook and they will get funneled over to me. I will add them along here. But I'm going to start off with some questions of my own because I just watched the film yesterday. And John, maybe I'll start with you because let me just say this, that the woods can either be a magical place or a terrifying place. And for this story, you have picked the latter. When I take my dog for a walk, it's the former. Tell me what inspired you to create a film set in the woods. It brings to mind all the horror movies we grew up with, right? Somewhere very isolated where bad things happen.
Yeah, you just explained the setup for all my favorite movies. Isolation, where bad things can happen. I grew up playing in the woods. They're magical, and they're also, a strange and haunting place. I grew up on Vancouver Island, where we actually shot the film. And, I used to make movies when I was a kid, just in my own head. So it was always a fascinating place for me, kind of for both sides. I think pretty much everything I've ever written has either a strong component or it takes place entirely in the outdoors. And for whatever reason, I just keep wanting to get back to that childhood place. So I guess that's why.
Okay. And this movie really did present Vancouver or BC in all its natural glory. There were some amazing shots. I guess shooting outdoors is a cinematographer's dream. Except for night shoots, I suppose. How do you shoot
dream
all the
or night
stuff?
It really depends on what you're playing with.
What's that?
I said dream or nightmare. It really depends on what
That's
you're
right.
dealing with. We had some nice stuff though.
Yeah.
The natural light of shooting outdoors is definitely a cinematographer's dream. It's also a low budget filmmaker's dream because we had a pretty small kind of gear truck that we brought up with us and had a limited lighting kit. But that was always the conceit. I very much wanted it to look naturalistic. A lot of it is just lit by natural light. And at night, we tried to basically just use the moonlight or kind of replicating the moonlight. So it still stays very kind of gritty, dark, and natural looking. So.
Yeah. And Dale, what was it like? First of all, it doesn't look like a low budget film. It looked quite beautiful. The production values were really nice on this film. Again, I guess having the majestic trees of BC doesn't hurt in that regard, but
the best production designer you can ask for.
Yeah, but it certainly looked beautiful. Dale, what was your crew like on this film? Numbers wise.
Really, John and Andy put the crew together, and they were fantastic. It was just It felt too, I mean, everybody was so super professional, and I mean, Andy's cinematography and the camera crew and everybody on crew was amazing. But, and of course the cast, but it was also, I mean, as we started going, there was kind of a family, it felt like kind of a family vibe to it all as well. So, you know, everybody was in it together, and we're all holed up out in this, you know, in the middle of nowhere, out in the wilderness. And so it kind of lends itself to, you know, you're just together for a couple of weeks, and that's it. You don't see anybody except for the crew. So great, great filmmakers, and even better people. And it's credit to John and Andy who pulled them all together.
Catherine, were you out there for that part of the shoot?
Yep, I was. It was really beautiful, but my feet got pretty cold. That was pretty gnarly. That was pretty gnarly. But it was really beautiful. I'd never been to, where was it again? That was like 3 years ago we shot it or something. Wasn't it?
We shot North Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
So Port McNeill is mainly where we shot, in around the Port McNeill.
Yeah.
A little bit outside.
Yeah, it was really beautiful, and it was also very eerie at night, obviously, but everyone did such a beautiful job. So
Did you guys tell ghost stories a lot? Because I imagine this must have felt a bit like camp for adults after everything was shot and, you know, everyone was chilling out, having some dinner and.
oh, it was like camp. It was
Oh,
like
yeah.
camp.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that or like the motel turned into like the dorms of university, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
It was
I understand what's happening here. I understand what you're referring to. Well, we'll avoid that line of questioning, but it sounds like a fun shoot. Let's just say that.
It was a great, like, family, like Dale said, we really became kind of family out there. You're the only people you see.
Yeah. Yeah. And Richard, let's move over to you with some questions. First, let's get this out of the way. How many times have you been told you look like Robert Pattinson? Like,
oh, I mean, you know what? Less now than I used to. Like back in high school, that was when that was really popping off. I don't think I ever knew of one person having a crush on me in high school until grade 12 when Twilight came out. And then all of a sudden there was crushes happening all over the place. Not because of not because I was pleasant in any way, just because I remotely resembled Robert Pattinson. Yeah, it's kind of gone away as I've gotten older, but, you know, I would never take that as an insult. A handsome man. And a good actor, too.
Very talented actor, too. You wouldn't know it from his Twilight series, but he is a very talented actor, for sure. So I wanted to ask you,
Lighthouse
because...
was fantastic. I recommend it to anyone.
Which one?
Lighthouse that he did with Will and
Yeah.
last year was fantastic. Just the two of them. It's kind of like our movie, actually, in a way.
Exactly.
Still never seen it. I keep hearing people say that, but we shot our film.
It's
about
fantastic.
a year
You'd
before
love it.
and I've still never seen it, so should probably
Yeah,
check
it's
it out.
on. It's on Amazon Prime, I believe.
I love that filmmaker, but
It is. Yes.
Yeah, it's very surreal and a bit of a mind bender, right?
My kind of movie.
Yeah, sounds like it. Richard, what was it like for you to play this character, and how do you kind of get into this character? Because he's, let's be honest, he's a bit of a jackass.
He's a mess. Yeah, he's a jackass, undoubtedly. He's a mess as a human being. It was a great challenge, first and foremost. I remember when John kind of brought it to me, and I read it, and was like, this guy's messed up. And then my actor brain kind of started to think of all the ways that I could make him cool and understandable. And I'm like, no, I think the understandable kind of quality in him is that he's not cool. There's nothing really likable about watching this guy, because I think we all know people who have gone through stuff like this, that, like I've said it before, it's kind of like he's just allergic to life. Like he just sort of rejects it at every turn. He makes these bad decisions, and things just keep getting worse and worse and worse. And I think we all know people like that. And it's not fun to watch them self-destruct like that. It's not a cool thing to watch. So I think that was the fun in playing him, was trying to not make it cool or interesting, make it really a warning of like, don't kind of go down this path of abuse, abusing substances and stuff like that, which he definitely was. So that was kind of the pleasure of playing him was kind of in the difficulty of playing him. And then getting into it, I don't know if I should tell this story, John. It was before we started working. It was
So many stories. I don't even know what's
there's
on.
so many stories. Yeah, I've never.
Go for it.
First and foremost, I never drink when I work. Like, I don't drink when I work. But I told this to John, and I was like, however, what do you think about me maybe coming to work hungover? Would that work? Just so we like have this horrible, which I've never done that either. And he was like, yeah, we could give that a try. So every night before, you just see me in the motel room learning my lines for the next days, and not drinking for pleasure, just drinking to like have a headache the next day, which
Sure.
As an older actor now, I don't recommend, and I wouldn't do it again. You know, I was 24, 25 or whatever, and just wanted real hard to go and get it. I wouldn't recommend it, but that's what we did. I could have done it without that, though. I think I've learned.
Well, it's a process. Now you know.
Well, it's called acting. I should try it sometime. Just do that.
Well, you're so method. You also.
I was going to say method. Yeah, just
Sounds before we start show.
But I have to say, Richard, like, I don't know. I've never, like, when I watched it, I didn't really see him as being just a jackass. I saw him as being just like a hurt little boy. And I felt like you really brought that. So I just wanted to commend you on that, bud. So
Thank you.
good job
Yeah,
there.
he was very damaged, and you could see that there was no way for him to really, he didn't know how to deal with that damage except for sinking further into it.
No, just like no coping.
Yeah. He can't get away from his own demons, and it just keeps falling further and further into it.
Yeah, and
Sad.
they
First and
take him down.
foremost, sad.
Yeah, totally sad.
but he was trying though. He tried. I mean, you saw that too. He was trying, and he wanted to please his mentor, you know, Sparky, and you saw that emotion in it as well. You know, so it wasn't just a mess. I mean, he was a mess for sure, and that was interesting. I've heard you talk about how you played that role and how it was like just this unlikable guy, but he definitely had redeeming qualities that came out as well.
And that's what I meant really when I said that he's a bit of a jackass, is that you yourself are a very likable person. So it must be fun in some ways, and of course challenging to get into the mind of somebody like this who doesn't see any hope. There's no silver lining in his world. But also probably a fun gift to play a lead character who's so unlike you, and that you can have fun playing somebody who is a jerk. Like, sometimes he's unapologetically a jerk.
Yeah.
I would use the words self-destructive.
Yeah.
There's glimpses, like Dale said, there's glimpses of him trying to break.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to have any silver linings, I don't think. He's so down on himself that he doesn't deserve it.
Yeah. I think we're having a little bit of a delay with Richard's. Yeah, we're having a little bit of a delay with Richard's Wi-Fi, so we'll try and be mindful of that. But I do want to talk to Philip. There's a couple of fan questions for you, Richard, but we're going to make sure I get to Philip first, because this is basically a two-hander, right? This is a very meaty two-hander, which...
Thank you, Richard.
Which, John, I wonder if you'd ever thought about making this into a play, or if it originated as a play, because I feel like it could be such a good two-handed stage play.
That's really interesting. I started out in theater earlier on in my career, but I'm definitely a filmmaker through and through. That's my medium. But yeah, before Phil speaks, I just got to say what a beautiful performance Phil gave, and it was such a balance between the two, totally different energies, and it was just beautiful to watch the chemistry between those two.
Yeah.
And I have to say one little thing too about Phil, because we ended up staying in the same place together, and there was never a minute that he wasn't working on this script. There was never a minute. The entire time, like from the time we arrived to, you know, dinner or evenings or nighttime, and you know, it was just constantly, you know, he just immersed himself in it. It was fun to watch, and it was you know, I mean, it was just an interesting process to watch.
And it must have been so much fun to play because you really get to dive deep. You know, you guys get to go right head on head. So Philip, I wanted to know from your experience, from your perspective, before asking Richard the same question, what that was like to really get meaty with an actor and just go toe to toe, head to head, toe to toe, whatever, from top to bottom.
Those opportunities are so rare, you know, like where you have these type of people to play. And you know, it starts with, honestly, you know, I honestly started the first day that I did rehearsals with Richard and John, and we sat together in a room, and there was Richard, you know, honestly made this whole thing happen for everybody. And there was such a benevolent, open spirit going into the rehearsals that, and with John and everybody, I had this sense that that everything that we've always wanted as artists, there was the opportunity to be able to explore that, however that came out, you know. And there was like, it was the fabric was there, the in the writing, the texture was there, the information to be able to uncover the onion, you know. So for example, at the end of the film, you know what happens with Richard and I, and then I've got a boy who's in trouble, who's come to stay at this island, and I have my own secret about some young boy that had been lost, that I'd lost. And then I'm seeing this other young man disintegrating and not quite sure what to do with it because of my own inability to be honest with what I'm feeling about everything. So in there, like the humanity of it, and also the humor, you know, the irony, and so for me, it was honestly, it was getting to play off an actor who was so physically present and like truly the character all the time, that it was really easy for me. I just kind of knew that this young man that was with me on this island reminded me of my son. I guess the secret is, I don't know if I've ever told anyone, but the boy in the monologue was my son in my mind. And so Richard he was like my son. It was like my son that I couldn't help that day.
Yeah.
And so that's what it became for me. I think acting is always relationship. You know, what is your relationship to the place? What's your relationship to the characters in the film with you? The story, what is the story about? And then you try to be as honest as you can and as present as you can, and allow that to be don't fight it. In other words, don't try to manipulate things. Try to really be focused on what it is that you are needing as a character, and who are the people that you live in this world with. And so, you know, you have a hermit and a young man in trouble who are forced to live on an island together. And then, you know, my character is always distracting himself with work or shooting shit or whatever, because I don't really want to deal with what my inner secret is. I think that's a beautiful thing, right? He's got a secret, and I have a secret, nobody's talking about it. So, did that answer any of the, I don't know if that made sense to anybody.
I liked it.
I don't want to get too much of the movie away.
I always like hearing you talk, brother.
Right? It's interesting to hear also Richard, like I'm fascinated by, you know, actor's process. And, you know, to hear Richard talk about it in such a brave manner that I didn't want a silver lining. It would have been very easily to have dipped the toe into the sympathetic pool and lived there the whole time, or you know, like that stuff. And you didn't. And then I think the success is, Richard, is that you said that there was the heart there, that we bled for you, we felt for you. And that, honestly, in that type of role is a difficult thing because of some of the road that you traveled on. And then to see past that to this, like you said, a hurt boy who is traumatized and trying to like cope with his trauma. Wow, that's really successful, I think. So, you know, Catherine, like one of the most amazing actors, like, wow, just so simple, so present. And I remember the first time I met you, Catherine, you came and you're like, I'm in a movie and what the hell am I doing here, you know? And we were all, you know, hanging out and you were so sweet and like, you know, and then you turned in that performance the way you did. You were, you know, it was just incredible. It was the glue to the story, wasn't it? And then,
It was.
and then John wrote this great script, and then you have John's partner, Andy, who is a cinematographer, and they've been dreaming these movies. That's the thing people don't realize, is that, you know, to make a movie, you pull it off and however the schedule is, but moving that boulder up the mountain, like years and years of like, let's make this movie. And I think that's one of the reasons that I work so hard on any film I do, is I realize the people that are making it have spent their years. They might get all of a sudden get the money and get to make that movie, but it's years of dreaming about that moment. And I think as a support person, you need to honor that in a way. And so what a rare opportunity for everybody. We got to go on this venture together and got to know each other. And it was great. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, it's funny. Thank you. I was, you know what, the camp part though? I was the kid down the hall. Dale and I were sent down the hall. So we had to live with this, we lived with Randy, who was our technical advisor, and he was really my character. And the guys would go, oh, you got to meet Randy because he's Sparky. So
he really was.
And he really was.
Life Sparky.
He was a real life Sparky. So, you know, the beautiful thing was, I went in his closet. I was like, hey, Randy, I'll trade you this for that. I'll trade you this for that.
You were wearing his clothes by then.
I'm like pulling wardrobe pieces out of his closet. That green.
That's method.
Randy.
See, that's method.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
But there was another, I gotta tell that story because there was two Sparkies up there. Because the other, the guy who had the lodge, Dan, who was just a fantastic guy. And you can tell whatever you want about Dan, but he when we were shooting the one scene, and it was out in front of the lodge, and not to give anything away in case somebody hasn't seen the movie, but he as we were watching it, he was standing beside me, and I know what it was. It was the scene when Sparky comes out and looks out over the water after the storm. I can say that much. It was after the storm. And just looked, and then Dan, like the real life Sparky, says to me, you know what, I can't even say this because I don't want to give away what it was. But he told me he said, well, that reminds me of the time that, and he basically told me what happened to him in real life that was the movie.
Yeah, for context, Priya, you talked about ghost stories, telling ghost stories. We didn't have to. We were living the movie. And there was like one thing after another that kept happening to us while we were filming and when we were wrapped, that were things that were true to the film. And we were meeting these people as we were filming that were like characters right out of the film. Our location manager, Randy, shout out to Randy Wilson that Phil's talking about. He was very much embodying this character that I had written. And when Phil met him, it was like, kind of as he was getting into character, I think it was a bit like looking in a mirror, and he was actually pulling clothes out of Randy's closet and ended up wearing half his clothes for the whole film. And yeah, Dan Kirby, Dan and Sandra, the owners of the lodge where we filmed, were so accommodating, but also as they would witness scenes being shot, like Dale's describing, they would say, "Oh, that's happened at this lodge before," or we've had a young watchman who's worked for us who's had a lot of troubles, and it was just one coincidence after another that, to me, told us we were telling an authentic story and that we were on the right track with real characters and real life situations. So it was very
specifically on track. That was the craziest thing. It was that was the spookiest part, is that there were and if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you will when you see the movie, but specific things that happened is and then what I remember telling you, John, and it was just like, what? It's just unbelievable. So yeah, it was
in the words of George Costanza, worlds colliding.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yes.
That sounds very bizarre and surreal.
Very much so.
We have a lot of questions, so I want to make sure I get to these. Yeah. But I quickly wanted to ask Richard how that was for you playing, the two-hander, but we've got a lot of acting questions for you coming up. So Catherine, I did want to ask you, because you play, you have no actual dialogue in this film, but you play such a pivotal character. How do you prepare for a role like this where you've got nothing to portray? You have nothing to act except just your emotions, really.
Well, with that character, I remember sitting down with John, and she's sort of like his kind of light, and they have a very codependent relationship. And not just that, I felt I'd been through that before. I'd been sort of that wanting to take care of somebody, even though they're on a crash course to just self-destruct, and there's really nothing that you can do. And what tends to happen is that you go down with them, in a sense. And I remember sitting with John, and I was like, oh shit, this is I can access this and I can do this. And but I also knew that because I didn't have any dialogue, she had to have there was an energy I needed to carry on set, and it was a lot of it had to do with verbs and actions and stuff like that. What was I doing to Richard in the scene? What did I want from him, and all of that stuff. And Richard was just I never met Richard before, but it was a little bit weird because we prepared the same way. We both had our own playlist for characters, and so I felt kind of a kinship towards him. And I also just felt really safe to just but I don't know, I just I felt her rage, I felt her sorrow, I felt her betrayal, I felt all of it. And it was just really cathartic to sort of get it out. And yeah, it was just, those kind of roles are really hard to do. And but it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing it, and it was also really creepy. I liked it. So
yeah, it was a really beautiful performance, and that did ground, Richard's character, like Jake, and we understand why he's feeling all the demons because of who he hurt, and you portrayed that really, really nicely. So congratulations, because that must have been such a hard thing to do.
It was kind of fun. It was fun.
No, it was fun. Continue. Go ahead.
Well, it was just fun, and it was also I found it kind of healing for me. I had sort of relationships like that, and I actually didn't realize how much those relationships were still in me. Mm-hmm. And so kind of going through that was kind of oh, I can just
release it.
I can let that go and everything. So I actually found it. And it was also fun. I liked, because I don't get to be rageful. I don't get to be wanting to hurt someone. And so that part was fun for me. So, yeah.
Okay, so let's start with some of these questions here. Kaylee Hopkins asks Richard, what was it like being the main character, and how was this character different from playing Murphy?
Okay, for those who don't know, I mean, many probably do. Murphy's my character on The 100, who much more is like, he's like the wild card whenever he's in a scene, and you know, he sort of is the one that paints the scenes with different colors, and yeah, he's a wild card. Jake, however, I mean, playing the lead and kind of having the story drive through you is a very, very different thing. You have to control yourself a little bit more. I find with Murphy, I can just throw caution in the wind, do whatever I really want, and you know, it's not me driving the story for the most part, so it won't really matter. I can just have fun with it. I have a lot of respect for leads now, having done it a couple times, because you have to control yourself, and you have to remind yourself of the story of where you need to go to for the entire story is pivotal and kind of pivoting around you. So you need to keep everything in control and be a lot more guarded with sort of the decisions you make. So it was difficult. It was difficult, but it was fun, and it was good to have a lead character that definitely isn't a prototypical lead. He's definitely more of a side character who we get to have as the lead character, which is kind of a fun thing.
Yeah, sort of an anti-hero, but not really the hero part.
Yeah, never really gets quite to, well, you know, no spoilers.
Yeah. All right. Another question from Michelle Leva. It's awesome to see Richard play Danny Reyes, and then to see who he is now, and including his character Jake. It's awesome, this evolution. So how has the evolution of the type of characters you portray been for you?
I mean, you have to keep in mind, I've been doing it professionally for 20 years now. So the progression has been like from a child into being a, you know, drug addict photojournalist. So there's been a large scope of things to kind of shoot through. But it's been great. And the older I get, the more fun I have, and the more free I am with kind of my job. And it means as much to me, if not more, now than it ever did when I was younger. And yeah, it's just been the best to kind of be able to have played so many different kinds of characters. Especially I've had the opportunity to play some of the more challenging types of characters, like, you know, people with substance abuse problems, people with depression, and people with all that, which are things that in real life are such a, you know, such a burden. And for those people who suffer through that kind of stuff, then I really hope you go and, you know, seek the right kind of help. But there's something to be said as an actor to be able to portray that. It's such a great challenge.
Oh. And I don't want to get too deep or dark with this thought, but as I was watching this film, it did make me think of the isolation factor. Made me think of what a lot of people have been experiencing right now, the last few months with COVID, and how mental health has become such a hot button topic, because people who are suffering from depression or other issues are feeling that even more so. And so it was really interesting to see kind of just the timing, like the way the universe works, that this film has come out at this time when probably a lot of people can relate maybe in a different way to Jake, whereas normally I would have thought, yeah, he's just a jackass. But, you know, it's a little bit different now. You think, what's brought him to this place? And how is he so far gone that there's no help for him, even in his own mind? It's just really interesting to watch it at this time in the world we live in.
Well, I think that is something people all of us need to do better at, is to remind ourselves that, you know, you don't have to like everyone, and people can be jackasses and not good people. But there was something that brought everyone to where they are. And maybe it's just important to remind yourself that there's been a long list of things that has brought every single person on this planet to where they are now. And if it's not someone you like, then just remind yourself that there might have been something there that kind of brought them there.
Yeah, you don't know their story.
To kind of, you don't need to uncover it all. It's not your job to do that. But just remind yourself that it's, you know, life is difficult enough as it is, and it could bring people to their knees if they let it.
Yeah. John and Dale, there's a question from Kaylee asking, was it fun directing and producing this film?
course it was.
Broke your ankle.
What's that?
You broke your ankle.
Yeah.
I did. I love making this movie. I love making this movie. I couldn't give up on making this movie, which is how it got made. Yeah, it was a blast to go on this roadshow kind of adventure that Phil referenced. Kind of live the movie, be in this kind of summer camp, live in the movie itself, and kind of go back in time. You know, the film is set in the late '80s. Everything's analog. There's no technology around. There's no, you know, current events and political news that was happening at the time that we were filming. I wanted to get away from all that. So yeah, that was amazing. I did, unfortunately, broke my ankle on day 4 of 12.
Early.
Day 3, you know. Anyway, it was early on. So yeah, I finished the film on crutches. So I must have loved making it. Otherwise, I probably would have got a helicopter to get the hell out of there.
Yikes.
How about you, Dale?
Oh yeah, I mean it was such an experience and so much fun. I mean, obviously there's a lot of stresses that go along with making a movie, and the director breaks his leg, and you got to figure out what you're going to do now, and different things like that are going on, running around finding casts and things. But and then post production, you know, the whole thing. There's always something going on. But it was a joy. Like, it was an absolute joy to be a part of this project. And I think maybe because I've never given birth to a baby. Might shock everybody, but you know, you hear about childbirth, and then women are like, I'll never, you know, at the point, I'll never do this again. And then within about a couple of days, it's like, oh, I'll have I'm going to have another baby. And so it's, you know, the joy is just overwhelms anything else that went on. So yeah, it was fun.
I think all of the men in the room can agree that this is the same thing as childbirth.
And all the women watching are like, you did not just equate making a movie.
And by the way,
all the boys, I think we can all agree right on this.
I very cautiously use that example because, and you know, with a very strong disclaimer. Well, maybe not a strong disclaimer, but there was a disclaimer there.
I should also just take this opportunity to give a shout out to Andy Hodgson. Couldn't join us for the chat here, but my executive producer partner and cinematographer on the film, and did an amazing job, and his name keeps coming up, so I figured I'd mention it.
Yeah.
Where
great
is he?
job.
Why can't he join us?
What else is he shooting right now?
Yeah.
Well, he was golfing on Monday. What's he shooting now?
This question is for all the actors, but I feel like, Catherine, you answered this already. And pardon me as I try to fix my lighting, because I forgot it's 8 o'clock here and it's getting darker as this is happening. So I wasn't really prepared lighting-wise in my living room. So it's going to be wonky, but the question is for Philip and Richard. I feel like you may have answered this a little bit, but maybe if you want to add to it. The question is, what was the biggest challenge in taking your role, this role? And that's from Sarah Gondo. Oh my God, that's way too bright.
Biggest challenge? Oh, gosh. The biggest challenge, I don't look at roles like challenging. I kind of look at them like opportunities. So the challenging part is getting the part, honestly. That's the most challenging part of all of it. Once you have the part, it's more like you have this chance to like really delve into parts of yourself that you may not do in a normal life situation, and to engage your imagination in a way that is kind of exciting to you, the actor. So honestly, the most challenging part of doing the part is getting it.
But I wrote it for you.
You're like, yeah, I got it. Now I get to work on it, right? Now I get to work on it. Yeah. The other part is like, did they get it? Oh, Jesus. You know? Oh, fuck it. I sure hope I got it. Oh, my God. Sometimes, driving in here's the most challenging part. You got the scene that you're reading the script, and you're like, holy fuck, we're going to do that scene now. today's the day. And so, you know, the most challenging part is getting in the van, like going to set going, I gotta do that scene today. And I'm trying to act cool as hell. Like, everything's cool, I'm great. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. And you're just terrified. That can be challenging, you know? You got to keep your shit together. Everyone, hey, John, how you doing? Yeah, I'm ready to go, you know? And like, and we had this incredible scene. Like, it's like a 3-page monologue, right? I don't know, it's long. And
The thing was like the scene was like 12 pages.
Long one.
page,
That thing,
crazy.
our takes were like 9 minutes long on that scene.
Yeah, and Richard cries in the same place, the same, like, I get to that line, they done one tear. What, I'm like, the fuck is,
Master of the one.
you had this, she had the one tear again? Bang, there's a tear. I was like, come on, give me a cigarette. I'll do the cigarette while the one tear comes out. But it was incredible.
I love to see you smoking in that scene. It was great to see.
The one tear, I'm like, John, is that one?
He just turned the other tear duct off.
That was amazing.
Phil
Yeah,
literally came up to me.
Tearing up, yeah.
Phil literally came up to me after
One side of your brain really sad.
Oh, yeah. That's the challenging part, Sarah, is like some days you get those scenes and they're kind of terrifying on paper and you know you're going to do it that day and you get in the van and you got to drive to set and you're like going there and somehow, you know, you get in your seat and you start doing it and you just pray to the acting gods it's all going to come together. And they usually do. But yeah, some of those drives are tough, right? You know what? Here's another first really tough one. First day, call time, 5 a.m. Cool. I'm going to go to bed early. 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. I got to sleep, please, God. 3 a.m. Oh, God, I got to sleep. 5 a.m. I got to go to work. Right? You don't sleep because you're like, I got to go.
Yeah, I had sleep paralysis the night before the first night.
Did you sleep?
Back then, I didn't know what sleep paralysis was back then. Now it's been a reoccurring thing for me in my life. But I had this like witch standing over my bed. It was horrible. And then eventually I woke up in the morning at 4:30 and I was like, thank God it's work time. Let's go. That was the worst night. I got no sleep other than what I did.
It's weird, right? You're like, please, God, I got to sleep. I've literally been on my knees going, please, God, I got to sleep. I got to sleep. It's my big day, right? And you're like, you're wide awake, and every hour you're like, at the clock, you know, and you get the hotel. Hey, please call me at 5 a.m. Set the clock 5 a.m. Phone 5 a.m. Okay, I'm good. And still not asleep. That's the challenging part.
Yeah.
Catherine, you probably did that.
Oh, I did that. That was me the first night there. Like I got off the plane. Well, because it was kind of I was only there for a few days, but everyone was like super cozy and like it was like summer camp, and I was just like, what the heck? And yeah, I just remember like the first I didn't sleep at all.
What the hell?
I don't think the director sleeps. I don't think anyone sleeps in that first night, honestly. I don't think there's a member on the crew that sleeps that first night. And, you know, you just like that part, huh? And then, Richard, you're wide awake. You get up, how you doing? I'm great. Feel good.
I get excited before the first day.
You get excited, yeah.
I think a kid before their first day of school, really it is that feeling.
Did
So-
that answer your question?
We only have a few minutes left, and you'll see that I've put on my Blair Witch lighting for you all, an homage to Scary in the Woods. And now I feel bad, Richard, because I hope this isn't the witch that you were dreaming of, standing on your chest.
It was no, not at all, not at all.
Okay. Next time you see her, just picture me going, hi, and it'll be
My
okay.
sleep paralysis is switched to a guy in a black hood over
There's some
my
of
bed.
Oh my God.
It did melt.
Okay, so that, I think that's going to lead into our final question. And hopefully, as you've all said you would, and I'm encouraging people on Facebook, if you still have questions, do pop them in there, because everybody has been so gracious and they said they would check back and answer your questions because we didn't have time to get to everybody. But let's end on this question because of the whole sleep paralysis freaky thing. And that is from Sam Dinka Kalashnikova. A question for everyone who worked on the film. Was there something weird going on set? Did something mystical outside of filming happen with each of you once in your life? Well, let's just go on with was there something weird going on in set, you know, something in the woods? Did you have that feeling?
Well, there were cougars, that's for sure. We had a couple of sightings. I think back to what I was saying earlier, there was so many weird coincidences. I mean, we had a Grumman Goose, vintage airplane that was doing flyovers of the lodge, and right before the plane came in, this big flying V of Canada geese flew right over us, kind of like leading the plane. The story that Dale was referencing about the lodge owner having worked with a kid that was very similar to Richard's character. I think it was just, for me, it was these constant kind of eerie reminders that we were like very close to the truth with these types of characters and the setting.
Yeah, bizarre.
Anybody else have any spooky?
Yeah, does anybody else have anything? I mean, Richard, did your sleep paralysis begin on this movie with that witchy witch?
No, once before then, but I still on both those occasions wasn't aware of what sleep paralysis was. I just thought it was strange, and now I do. So now it's just something I deal with. And I can wake myself up for a minute.
Thank God for the silver linings, right?
Silver linings.
Yeah.
I get them, Jake doesn't.
Jake, not so much. There are lots of questions that we didn't get to, so please, I hope that you guys can go to answer some of these. Some of them I can answer quickly. The shooting was 11 days, from what I understand, right?
11 days on the island, and then we had a couple of pickup days in Vancouver when we got back.
Okay, so there are questions asking how long you had, Richard, to prepare to take this role. There are questions about whether or not you dreamed of bears in your nightmares. Maybe not bears, but definitely some creepy things in some dreams here. So there are some interesting questions also about what songs were on Jake's playlist. So some cool questions here that I would love to see the answers to myself.
I'll go answer them. I still got the Jake's playlist, so I'll go on. I'll name a few.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you all. I again apologize for this creepiness that's happening here. It's been awesome talking with you all. It was such a fun chat about a really cool little indie movie, and we make great films here in Canada, and more people need to discover them. So I encourage you all who are watching the Q&A today to follow us on Instagram and like our Facebook page and become a member of First Weekend Club, because then you'll find out about all the amazing films that are being released and when, and hopefully soon to be back in theaters. Richard, I also wanted to just say that I was looking forward to chatting with you because I've had the pleasure of talking to your parents, and now I see that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. They are a couple that I would just love to have a bottle of wine beside a fireplace and just chat the night away with them. And they've spoken so highly of you and your sister, and it's really nice to get to meet you virtually.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. But if you had one bottle of wine with them, you'd end up having 4.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, they are.
They are too. Yeah, we did talk about our mutual appreciation of wine. So Richard, Catherine, Dale, John, and Philip, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us. And if you haven't seen the film, go watch it, Woodland. It's playing now. Everywhere you watch well, tell them where, John. Tell them where they can see it.
Yeah, North America wide on VOD. You can go to woodlandmovie.com, and we've got links to all the platforms, but we're everywhere: iTunes, Amazon, Google, Xbox, everything. And I just also want to say to everybody here, thank you so much for coming to play with me. Yeah. I've been staring at your faces, editing, putting this film together, for the last couple of years since we shot, and it's just a dream come true to get it out to the world on so many platforms, and for everybody to see your beautiful work. So thank you.
Yeah, it's been a joy. Thanks so
And
much.
I will ask you all to just hang on with me for one quick second after we say goodbye. But for the rest of you on Facebook, that's it for us.
Thanks for joining us.